When it comes to altcoins, the dream has always been to turn $100 into $500, maybe $1,000. How about $1,700? Now, that may be a bit of a stretch in terms of what's possible, but it is indeed possible with this new information that we've learned about XRP. We have this new scenario that actually can probably happen sooner than most of us will expect. And as with anything, information is power. Better to get ahead with the right information than otherwise. Make sure to keep watching until the end of this video. That's when I'm going to reveal this opportunity. But in the meantime, let's get right into it. We're counting down 3 very significant reasons as to why Ripple XRP stands to explode in August 2025. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie and this is Altcoin Buzz. Whether it's XRP or otherwise, I wish you all the very best of luck, genuinely, if you choose to invest. Just remember that I'm not a financial or investment advisor, nor is this video official financial or investment advice. Reason number 1 is very simply institutional interest in XRP, but specifically institutional interest for XRP in Korea. That went from an announcement to really something that manifested yesterday with a live integration. The announcement happened back in February, but then yesterday XRP custody went live. BDACS, they're a licensed crypto custodian in South Korea, meaning that institutions in Korea can now hold and manage XRP in a regulated environment. And after just 6 short months, this partnership saw real-life implementation. BDACS has institutional-grade custody infrastructure. So this brings bank-level security and compliance to Ripple, which is pretty crucial in terms of attracting institutional investment and adoption. That's exactly what the big boys out there, the smart money, it's exactly what they're looking for. So this is huge. It makes a really big difference. Firstly, because institutional investors and regulated entities can now securely interact with XRP. Of course, this also includes RLUSD, which is Ripple's stablecoin. But what's equally important is that South Korea is cracking down on crypto regulation, which kind of represents a perfect scenario for Ripple and XRP. It shows that Ripple's tech supports regulated crypto infrastructure, and then it's also one of the first mainstream financial adoptions for Ripple. Furthermore, Ripple now moves from really speculative markets to operational custody infrastructure. That's a big step. And it's also an important one because this partnership further aligns with South Korea's Financial Services Commission, or FSC, roadmap. Korea's FSC wants to expand institutional participation in crypto. Ripple and XRP really are now in the driver's seat, meaning it can offer greater regulatory acceptance and institutional trust. And as with many things, very likely this will have a domino effect in APAC. Ripple's footprint in Korea is pretty obvious now. It's growing. However, it's also a clear sign to neighboring markets. And you can think of Japan, Singapore, the Philippines, certainly others as well. And then, of course, last but not least, it very much boosts the XRP ledger, the XRPL. It adds new use cases for XRP as well as for RLUSD. So, for example, tokenization and stablecoin applications. As you have seen these last few days and these last few weeks, we've been talking about slowly unveiling a new project that we're very proud of here at Altcoin Buzz. Check out the link in the description below. We're inviting all of our viewers to try it, to check it out. Once again, you can find the link and participate in the description below. Reason number 2 why XRP is going to do massive things in August 2025 is the SEC settlement. This is now looming on the horizon, and for context, I'm sure you know about it, but this is a lawsuit that's been drawn out over a very long period of time. It started all the way back in December of 2020. The SEC filed a lawsuit against the company for alleged violations of securities laws. There are obviously different arguments and different perspectives here, but initially this also included 2 of its executives, these being co-founder Chris Larsen and current CEO Brad Garlinghouse. However, the SEC dropped the lawsuit against these 2 in October of 2023. In July of 2023, the SEC also determined that XRP was not inherently a security. That's how they phrased it. So by early 2025, the SEC dropped the lawsuit. That was also because there was kind of a change of guards of the SEC chairs. Gary Gensler, who we didn't really like, he was out, and Paul Atkins came in. In general, the SEC is now looking to install much clearer rules for the entirety of the crypto sector, XRP and otherwise. But it all just still feels like this never-ending story. We have this judge, Torres, ruled in June that she didn't accept the settlement proposed by both parties, which then led to appeals by both sides, and now both sides have dropped their appeals. Well, at least Ripple has, and the SEC might do this as soon as today. That's because the SEC has a closed doors meeting, and this could be on the agenda. We don't really know. It's closed doors, but either way, it is widely expected that the SEC will drop their appeal really any time now, so very soon. Ripple also agreed to pay a $125 million fine. And hopefully, at least as we see it, and as far as the consensus goes, that should be the end of the story, finally. This Altcoin Buzz Spotlight video is sponsored by Walrus Protocol, which has the fastest solution for data storage on the market today. It's from the team behind Sui, and their token and airdrop were a huge success. Walrus is already a top 150 coin. In fact, it's so resilient that even with only a few nodes operating, your data availability will not be affected. Decentralized data storage on Walrus is solving the big problem of data availability and integrity. And this is especially important for AI models and their data sets. Decentralized AI solutions are important to many of us in the industry and many of you as well. And really the last thing that we'd want to see is having to give up our data for free again, like we did with social media and a lot of the big Web 2 companies. But AI models are big, huge databases that need training on one end and specialized limited access on the consumer end. Walrus was built exactly for this. Its specialty in large pieces of unstructured data means storing models to train to your liking on your private data is easier and cheaper than ever before. And Seal helps you control who accesses it. That means you can use Walrus to create an AI app to sell to others with the user permissions and controls you need. So try Walrus today. Whether you need it to store an NFT or an entire AI model, you get the same smooth, fast, and cheap storage service. Follow Walrus on X for more updates and check out the link in the description below. All right, you probably saw this one coming, but the third reason that we have to be pumped about XRP for the month of August 2025 and beyond is, of course, the fact that an XRP ETF is kind of imminent right now. And when that is officially approved, chances are, price-wise, things are going to explode. Let's take a look back at January for reference and context here. Earlier this year, January 2025. That is when JP Morgan projected a $3 to $8 billion inflow for an XRP ETF. Fast forward to the modern day, and that exact ETF may come as soon as October, because that is when the SEC deadline, as far as their decision, is due. So, with that projection in mind, let's talk about what this could mean for the price of XRP. Currently, as I record, the token sits at $3.07 with a $182 billion market cap. Let's call that $3 just for the sake of simplicity, and assume that if XRP sees only a fraction of the ETH ETF inflows, it could actually reach $7 to $15. That is anywhere between 2x and 5x from where we are right now at $3. Meaning the XRP army and basically every other person who holds XRP should be happy with that. A 5x is very nice. However, back in January, there were also predictions floating around for XRP to reach as high as $50. That is a 17x from here. I don't know about you, but like I said earlier, that is on the more unrealistic side. It is possible, but it's at the fringe of realism and what is possible. That would give, just so we're all following each other, that would give XRP as a project a $3 trillion market cap. For context, Bitcoin is now just above $2 trillion. So not the most realistic in the short term. Because, of course, assuming XRP were to do a 17x, Bitcoin would have to do the same. That would give us a BTC price of $1.9 million. $1.9 million per Bitcoin with a market cap in the $50 trillion range. One day, I think that's very probable, perhaps even inevitable, but I don't see that happening anytime soon for XRP nor for BTC. Over on Polymarket, the wisdom of the crowd here is suggesting that the chances for an XRP ETF has dropped over the last couple of days. That went from as high as 86% on the 5th of August down to 62%. We're back up again now at 71% as I record. SEC Commissioner Crenshaw voted against recent XRP ETF filings, and this had a dampening effect on the market confidence and affected the odds ultimately. Her opposition really is seen as a pretty key hurdle to approval, at least in the short term. And she was the sole dissenter. This only happened very recently, and so it looks like we may see a delayed XRP ETF approval.